Hello and welcome to the Trisbrina Show.
Tonight, we're diving into a really interesting topic of contrast. Contrast is that uncomfortable feeling that we get when we're out of alignment with our true self, with our higher self. But we're going to talk about how contrast isn't actually all that bad.
That's right.
Because it helps you see more clearly the direction you want to go, how to get into alignment, what you go towards, what you do want.
It can be your greatest strength, or it can be that which spirals you down that loop into the place of no man's land. It is no fun when you
brambles.
get into the brambles. We like to call it the brambles. It's sort of like you're walking along your path. You're having a great run. You're having a great ride. And you see something over yonder. And you sort to venture off your path. And next thing you know, you're all caught up in the thorns and the brambles. Like, how did I get here? And you got to get back on your path. So let's dive into this juicy topic. We are, all of us, yourself included, I'm sure, quite familiar with contrast.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about what is contrast, right? And in the way that we're speaking. Well, in Photoshop or on your iPhone, when you're editing a photo and you go to control the contrast, it's how much difference there is between the light and shade.
That's right.
Like between white and black, there are so many shades of gray. So contrast is when we're talking about how does that white look next to the darker gray or to the gray next to it. And what's really interesting is the more that you practice focusing on what you do want, which we'll say is the white, you don't have to go very far into the gray to call it contrast. Whereas maybe earlier in your life, before you were doing the personal development, before you were devoting time to the energy arts and living from your heart, you had to get all the way over there to that dark gray before you noticed that there was a contrast.
That's true. I wear this around my neck consistently because I think it's such a beautiful teaching as to what Sabrina's speaking about. That contrast, right? You have the male, the female, the hot, the cold, the black, the white, the yin, the yang. And it's that perfect balancing of those two energies where you're finding the alignment, or what we sometimes call the flow line, where if you go too far into one extreme, that's when it gets uncomfortable. That's one aspect of contrast. When you go too far into the other, that's the other aspect. But when you bring them into balance, and they do work together, it's the way of the Tao. You need both. You need both to give you clarity and perspective and to understand what you do love when you are in alignment. Because without contrast, you cannot appreciate in the same way.
Yeah, how will we continue to grow if there isn't contrast? How will we continue to expand if we're not aware when something's tight?
Right.
Right? How will we know we can hold more, right, unless we feel lack? So contrast can be really beautiful if you don't go down the spiral. A spiral would be like, I'm sad, this sucks, I'm going to put on suck glasses and look at everything in my life and just see everything in this dingy way, right? Because you let what you don't want in this one situation, this one, I call it a sting. I was sleeping years ago. Haven't slept since then, just kidding. So I was outside with the dogs and I came inside. It was summertime and I thought, I'm going to take a nap. And I laid down on the red sofa that we used to have downstairs. And I laid down and I put the dogs on the couch with me. And all of a sudden, sting! A bee had gone up my wide leg sweatpants, got caught in there, got frustrated, and stung my butt. Sting!
Man. I remember that now.
Right? And you get up like, hey, well, I'm innocent. I am innocent. I don't deserve that. This isn't fair. This isn't right. I was just being
minding
kind,
minding
my own business, taking a nap, and you sting my butt, right? And then you can look at that and let it go, and then focus on, okay. I could just reframe it 1,000 ways. I could think, that poor bee caught in a pant leg. Like, what is he thinking? He's like in the tunnel of death, right? My pant leg just round and round, not knowing what to do. He was stinging out his survival, right? But in that moment, Or I can, start saying, gosh, I wanted to take a nap. The one day I can take a nap, and now this happens and it's swelling. And I had that bikini photo shoot tomorrow, and now I'm going to have that big bump on my butt.
Your analogies are classic.
You can start letting it color the dark glasses, the complaining glasses, the glasses of I'm the one that always gets the sting. Things don't work out for me. Nothing's going to go my way. You can put those glasses on and then look at your whole life. That's not using contrast to your benefit. You want to look at it and then take the glasses off and put the clear vision back on.
So, yes, I remember that now, you getting stung, and you were such an innocent little creature minding your own business, and the tunnel of death bee gotcha. I've been thinking about the analogies, the stories. I mean, they're classic Sabrina. So this actually is a really, really cool topic. We're going to go deep into this thing. So stay tuned. There's lots coming. And feel free to share in the chat with us your insights and takeaways from this conversation and your experience of contrast. So I've been looking at it kind of like a barometer. You are reading or gauging your state through your emotions and through your life experience. And if you didn't have this gauge of contrast to perceive when you are in alignment, right, that flow line, or out of alignment, you'd be in trouble. It's like not having feeling in your hands and you put your hands into a fire. This is a problem. We need to be able to get feedback, that barometer, that reading. So contrast is really your teacher, right? It's that which you're using to interpret what's going on. So we should be really, really grateful for contrast. And sometimes what happens is we get upset, like, oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling negative emotion. And what happens is you start feeding that and activating it more, because that's what's present right now, rather than the reframe that Sabrina just said is like, oh, something's here to teach me. Something's here to remind me to, going the wrong direction, right? Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Yep, perfect, right? So start to see contrast as your friend, helping you identify when you're in alignment or out of alignment. So lately I've been saying something to myself, and I'm kind of liking it. So years ago I heard from the energy psychologist a saying or a statement that I think is really apropos in this context. The root cause of negative emotions, meaning you're out of alignment, right? If you're feeling negative emotion, you're out of alignment. So the root cause of negative emotion is a disruption in your energy system. So your energy's not flowing right, it's disrupted, it's skewed, it's stuck, it's blocked, and now you're feeling not so good. Well, that's the root cause, the disruption. But lately I've been saying the root cause of negative emotion is a disconnection from my inner being. See, the inner being, and I always go to the heart center for the connection to the inner being, that true identity, the true self. When I'm in that, when I'm connected to that, it's not that all is always well, but I am in alignment, and I know where positive emotion, if you will, or high vibration is, because my inner being never ever leaves that place.
Yeah.
That's my tether to the divine. So negative emotion for me just means I'm out of alignment. And I want to know. Don't you want to know when you're out of alignment?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
I love that you said that doesn't mean all is well necessarily on the outside. Right? Things may be in disarray. There may be sickness, illness, loss, whatever it is happening. It doesn't mean that all is well, but it means that I am well.
I am well.
I am well because I'm remembering and I'm seeing the situations through the team of me and
myself
and me, myself, the inner being, that
me, myself, the divine.
Oh, me, myself, divine.
I like that.
So I think that's an argument that sometimes that I've gotten into with people who don't see things, life, the way that I see them, and say, you're not facing reality. Things are not well. Things are not good. There's a lot to be sad about. There's a lot to be negative about. And there's a whole lot to worry about. And unless you worry, you're not going to take the right action. And so what we're talking about is contrast. Something is not the way you want it on the outside. Okay. Something is happening that you would choose differently on the outside. But in choosing the action that you make to rectify, to fix, to help, to assist, what would be better? Having the energy of it come from negativity and fear and doubt and worry, or coming from faith and holding the situation in possibility of grace. You still take very powerful action, maybe the same action in both ways. It's just what's in the undercurrent. So learning how to play with contrast is such a valuable skill to learn. You can play with contrast in a way that helps you rise more into faith and love, or put you more into what would be the opposite of faith? Fear.
Doubt.
Fear, doubt,
uncertainty.
worry.
Yeah, that's so right on. And sometimes, yep, you nailed it. Sometimes you can't put a finger on it, right? Like it seems like it's outside in,
Yeah.
right? Like this outside circumstance caused this internal angst. There is sometimes an internal angst that had nothing to do with an external circumstance being off. I shared about this recently. A teacher that I had years ago called it existential nausea. It's the nausea of just existing. Now, I was trying to identify what was it externally that got me in a funk. And I could identify a lot of things that might have been building up over time. Like sometimes we can bury issues in our tissues, and then when they percolate, we're like, where's this coming from? My mother passing away not long ago. My father not long before that. Sabrina's uncle. Someone who we really love and respected recently passing. Hearing about the artist Twitch. Like that kind of stuff could get you to feel pretty freaking sad, right? Like losing people very close to you. And so I was like, well, was it that? Maybe. Could it be that somebody treated you bad, right? Was rude, or you felt disappointed by someone? Yeah, and sometimes that's the trigger and you know for sure that was it. But other times it's just sneaking in, and sometimes it's not external. It's that disconnection from your inner being. And I identified it. Yes, those things were part and parcel of what I was experiencing, but I was actually not totally connecting at the depth that I know how. And here's what's interesting. The greater your levels of awakening, your greater your levels of contrast. Because it's so much more. It's like putting on a jacket that used to fit you, but you're so much bigger now, and you're trying to put this old identity on, and it's very uncomfortable. There was actually a massive expansion about to happen. I just didn't recognize it until I recognized it. And then I was like, oh, about to have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I have broken through, by the way, and all is well. But being in it actually was really good for me. It reminded me of how life used to be, right? So I can see how much growth has happened. It also reminded me of what other humans are going through. Not that I'm any better, because I certainly am not. But to remember, there's a lot of pain and discomfort. And if you're in the role of a coach or a teacher, it's actually really important to remember what that feels like. So that was very helpful to me.
So thinking about the color analogy again, whereas like pure white is alignment and solid black is complete disconnect. So during, I think, most of our lives, the yearning to know more is because we're living kind of in that middle of gray. Some good days, some bad days, totally out of control of when I feel good or feel bad. I feel bad about this. Somebody else says something makes me feel bad. I'm going to go even darker, right? But the middle point. So this is not like, oh, be in the middle. No, you want to get back to the pure white. But the more that you call yourself back to possibility, faith, hope, alignment, remembrance, oftentimes just by doing your practices, just becoming closer to that person, then just the slightest shade of gray seems as dark as black used to feel as you become more and more. So that's why you got to be easy on yourself. Sometimes when we fall back into a feeling, a habit, a pattern, an addiction, a hurt, how could I do that again? How could I do that again? Just know that a few years ago, it might have taken 10x that for you to even
that's
notice
a really good point.
that you're catching it so much faster.
That's such a good point. Like you are so much more evolved now than when you had limited perspective. You have grown. don't judge the journey. Like, expansion has taken place. You have been working on yourself. You didn't fall backwards. It's that the contrast experience is greater, and you're about to have a beautiful breakthrough.
Yeah.
Right? So, in order for one identity to drop off and a new one to birth, there's going to be a little bit of uncomfortableness as the old identity is sort of trying to hold on. Think of the metamorphosis of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Probably is kind of uncomfortable, and the caterpillar's probably like, I'm dying. And the
Yes.
butterfly, your essence inside is like, I'm birthing. You have to trust in the birthing process. So sometimes contrast is like this amazing harbinger of what's about to come. But here's the trick. When you pick up on contrast, if your habit is to get worried, and then you activate that worry, or if you're like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'm supposed to be more evolved or spiritual. Like, no, you're not. You're supposed to enjoy the human experience in all the colors of the contrasting rainbow, and to enjoy the expansion, and to maybe you could practice the art of this level of discrimination that you get as an awakening being, where you actually can watch the whole thing. It's like you're there and you're watching the emotion and all of that go through what it's going through, but there's this witness seeing it, not escaping. I'm not saying avoid or run away or bury your head in the sand. I'm saying notice. Notice.
Yeah.
Wow, something's shifting here. And even ask, what's here for me? What is this teaching me? What am I birthing into? As soon as you start pivoting like that, you're going to help lubricate the expansion.
And sometimes when the contrast is enough, those moments where enough is enough, enough is enough, you can shift the identity permanently in an instant. I'll tell you one time that I did it. I had one of my first adult dance performances where everyone was on the same level, like a ballroom, rather than in the past being on a stage and you're down there and you're in the dark and shine bright lights on me and I don't have to see you. This was just like out in the open. I was new to the ballroom community, very new. I'm the new girl on the scene. There were like 4 or 5 women trying to get the male teacher to be their professional partner. I came in, he asked me to practice to become his ballroom partner. So I totally projected on these people that, first of all, they don't like me, they don't want me to succeed, things that sadly I would have thought about them, right? From that competitive mindset. So we were going to do a demo, and I think I had even borrowed one of their costumes, and I put on the Latin high heels and the short dress. And as my partner grabs my hands, I am trembling. Now, ballroom dancing, a lot of the information that you get is the lead is through the hands. The hands communicate the body weight. So my hands are shaking, and then I can hear, and my legs are shaking so much that my high heels on the floor are doing an Irish dance. And I've got to spin and stop and hit these landings. And I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm totally in a self-conscious mode.
Wow.
It was hell for 3 minutes. And I went in the bathroom to put back on my party clothes and have to come out and face the crowd who probably, in my head, were all saying, I knew she wouldn't be that good. When I remember, I dropped the dress and I said, that's it. I will never care more about what people think of me than I do about loving myself. My worth is certainly not based on what a bunch of people in a little ballroom in Texas think about me doing the West Coast swing. I forsake everything. I felt like you turned your back on all that you are, on all that you know, on all that you've done, based on doing this little skill, right? This little performance. And I just said, that's it. Done. And it's done.
Did you have compassion for that other identity, or you just kind of dissolved it?
No, it's done.
It's done. You're done.
Done. Because I put it in a different category. I became aware of what I was forsaking. The beauty that I am, that just to dance because I love, to dance because I have a body, that dance is a way to say, thank you with every motion. And does it matter if your thighs are together and your right outer toe is pointing northwest, right? All of that just doesn't matter. And I enjoy working hard to perfect the skill, but I never again did that.
Wow.
I always honored me as a soul, and I respected myself for all that I have done well. I've done a lot of things well, and here I was acting like, I was just like the most untalented person in the world in that moment. I put all of my, all of my meaning into whether or not I danced well for that handful of people in a ballroom in Texas. It's silly. And we do that all the time. We're so hard on ourselves.
The root cause of negative emotion and negative self-perception is a disconnection from your inner being, from your true self. So in that moment, the personality of Sabrina that was in self-judgment and judgment of others was driving. And then she woke up because of the contrast.
Yes.
That's the takeaway. Because of the contrast, it thrust her into this other level of awareness and awakening where she will not forsake that anymore. See, that's sometimes the sting, like the bee. You need the sting every now and then because it gets your attention if you use it. See, she used it. She used it to evolve, to upgrade. Sometimes we get those opportunities and we wallow in the sting and we feel, myself included, like a victim. Like, why me? And oh no, and or I did it. I keep doing this to myself.
I'll never dance again.
I can't do it. Self-judgment versus I'm about to have a big breakthrough. There's so much available to me right now. Let me lean into this contrast. Let me lean in with love and curiosity. What's here for me? Because guess what? This is juicy. The contrast is there because there is something inside you that is asking for expansion. If there wasn't something inside you wanting to grow, you wouldn't have contrast. That's a writer downer, really. If there wasn't something inside you that wanted to expand, you wouldn't feel contrast. It's the expansion that shows you this thing that's smaller so that it can expand. Like when you catch that stuff when it's happening, and you're like, oh, you know what it does? It normalizes the challenge of life. It deals with the existential nausea. Oh, this is just part of the course. This is part of being a human. This is part of the expansion process. It's not always going to be the perfect path and the lily roses and all the cookies being baked in the trees by the elves. What other analogy can I throw in?
The lily roses.
The lily roses. It's not always going to be petals. Sometimes it's going to be some brambles because the brambles like wake you up and you're like, oh, shoot, the path's over there. And you can go over here and you go, damn, how'd I get in there? It's your fault. You knocked me off the path, you ass. Oh, no, I'm all jacked up. I don't know. What am I going to do? And then you thrash about. And guess what happens when you thrash about?
You don't get any lily roses.
No lily roses. And you get more caught in the brambles and you get more scratched and you get more drained. How about just going, wow, this is awesome. The path's over there. Thank you for the lesson. Got it. Don't need it anymore. And that's where, and Sabrina had written this earlier, Buddha says, the noble horse, and we're all noble horses in this analogy, the noble horse runs at the shadow of the whip. You know why? Because the noble horse has gotten a couple of whacks and stings in the past, gotten caught up in the brambles. And it's like, I don't need that so much anymore. I see you. Got it. Right? And off we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen it where I know that there are momentum. There can sometimes be momentum to my worrying thoughts. Right? I'll start out just worrying about this one offer page that isn't done, and then and that one, and then that funnel, and then those dates,
She's
and then
doing some marketing
that
speak.
that person, and then the taxes, and then this, and then it's like a little snowball that started at the top of the hill, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. My awareness of how hard it is to stop that big ball helps me when contrast first starts to say, you know what? Thinking these thoughts is not helping the outside at all. And it's certainly not helping the inside. When I think about this, I'm going to do it from a place of alignment where I can have inspired actions on how to fix the situations that I'm worried about. But just sitting here in momentum isn't doing it. Whereas before I would do it all the way to solid black. Now, not so much, because I can't feel that anymore. It's too heavy. It's too hard. There's too much self-hatred. It feels too small. When you know how bad something feels, stop doing it.
So here's a cool little tip trick. Let's say that you have been doing that for a while, and then you catch it, and you're like, oh, I've been stuck in this rut for a year.
30 years.
30 years. I can't change now. I'm too invested. No, you catch yourself and you realize there have been a lot of lessons, though, in this disconnect, in this contrasting experience. I've learned a lot. And then just take a moment to go, you know what? I could use all of this, and I could help other people with these lessons. I'm going to turn this bummer into my own breakthrough, and then I'm going to turn it into something that I can use. We did it with our business. Satori Method was birthed from a bummer, back injury, emotional angst, depression, sadness, a lot of grief.
Why you point at me when you say that?
Hey, what are you talking about? Hey.
You got a problem with me?
Hey, we both. We were a mess. and then there was the realization, but this is good fuel for ourselves to get out of it and for us to use it. And we actually built a business out of that, but we converted the energy of it from being this tight, compressed, fear-based situation into expansion.
Yeah.
And it blossomed. You know, there's a saying about the lotus. It needs mud. And this beautiful flower comes out of the mud. You need the contrast. And sometimes it gets really freaking muddy. But boy, can a beautiful flower blossom. So if you've been in the mud, don't beat yourself up and hold yourself in the mud. Let the flowering take place and use it as a giving, as a gift, as a blossoming, and share it with others because, gosh darn it, people need these messages, stories, and lessons.
And when you do that with yourself and you know, hey, I was really muddy, now that issue is way more clean. When I come into contact with other people that maybe I knew from the past or from last month, and I have a box that I haven't meant to put them in, but that's just what the brain does, and they're in a box that they think like this, and they like this, and they have these personality traits that I like, and these that I don't. It's so good for me to remember, what do I say, I let everybody off the hook, because I let myself off the hook. And I allow for other people to change and grow. Even the ones who maybe have been in a box of, you're just nasty. You're just a nasty person and I don't like you. You can't hold on to that. Number one, it's not good for me because whatever I'm seeing in them is in me. But besides that, I'm not holding space for them to blossom from the mud. And I'm pushing them back into that box that, do you know how horrible, of course we do. When I'm around someone and I'm just like, you're just so miserable and horrible to be around. Guess who's got the worst part of it? Them. Because they can't leave. Right? I can walk away. You're horrible and mean. I'm leaving. They're stuck with it. So I always remember that's the most painful thing, is to be the one experiencing that kind of negativity. And the biggest blessing that I can do for that person is allow them space. They're They're about to birth something beautiful. And the next time I see them, don't put them in that box. Give everyone a fresh chance. Let everyone off the hook, because I let myself off the hook and I give myself a fresh chance.
She's really talking beautifully about the art of holding space, because you're giving the room for that person to go through their experience, but you're also keeping the vision and the faith of what is possible for them. We have a saying around here, you pull out of others what you project onto them. So those of us who are coaching, parenting, helping others, pretty much all of us, if you project the good, meaning you are sending information and only envisioning the best, you're actually helping to pull that vibration and quality out of the other person. And isn't that what you want anyway? You want for them to be whole and to be connected and to be beautiful. And isn't that an amazing thing to do, since they're an extension of yourself anyway? It's the most loving act you can do, even if somebody has wronged you, right? Like, I get that that's a whole other conversation topic, but at least do it for yourself, as Sabrina said. But
Yeah.
if you do want that to change, project onto them what's possible.
Yeah.
You know, and like when I'm working with clients and they're going through stuff and I can see the identity strong around a particular narrative, I'm not buying into it. I'm understanding and listening, because I'm totally going to be there for them and help echo back what they said, and then see if I can't help and train them up to a higher frequency. But I'm seeing their authentic self. I'm seeing their true self, even when they're not remembering. And that, if you can do that for another, then that means you probably can do it for you, right? So it's a powerful, powerful way to live.
Yeah, because in the judgment of that other person, that's actually my contrast. I'm the one feeling bad about them not acting the way I want them to. I'm the only one who can shift that contrast, and in doing that, I invite them to as well.
Boy, this whole taking responsibility thing, huh? It's intense. But like, who do you want to have control in this life? You, or the way other people are acting? Right? Have you waited for other people to change
Yep.
so that you could be happy? Here's my last story.
Or acted a certain way because you thought that's the way you needed to act to be accepted. That was a big conversation with me and a client today, and then just with me, myself, and Divine, me, myself, Divine, is all of the times where I was in front or with a certain group of people where I assumed that they would need me to act this way in order to think that I was whatever, smart, talented, or fit in. And that wouldn't it have been a much better experience for them if I could just be without all the pretending and all of the contrast that it caused in my life in trying to pretend to be something that I didn't actually feel. And when you pretend it enough, you become it.
True that. My last story for our show tonight is once upon a time, when I was a younger lad and I was in more of a fraternity living situation, there was this three of us guys that shared, no, it was actually two of us shared a bathroom. The other guy had his own bathroom, lucky bathroom. No. So I shared a bathroom with this other fellow, and it was my job to clean the bathroom on Thursday, and then the following Thursday it was his job to clean the bathroom. And
who set that rule?
The house meeting. There was like a house meeting, so we had all these different chores. Who was going to take out the trash? Who was going to vacuum? Who was going, right? Yay for those days. Anyway, so this fellow would neglect to clean the bathroom on his day, and after 2 weeks goes by, it kind of can get dirty and grubby and gross. And I'm pretty clean guy, okay? Like, I grew up detailing cars, if that gives you any indication. I was super into clean. So I'd always like leave the guy a note on his door, like, hey, it's your day. And he would never freaking do it. And I was getting really pissed off about this. Like, this wasn't fair. This is bull. He should pay more money, blah, 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 for the rent, blah. And I was getting so perturbed about it. And I had a chat with one of my senseis, and he gave me some clarity around. He's like, you're giving away all your power. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And like, well, you're waiting for this guy to change and do this action so that you can be happy. Is there another way? I guess I could clean it, but that's not fair. And then I realized, screw fair. I want to feel good. I want a clean bathroom, and I'm going to stop waiting for somebody else so that I can feel happy.
I'm so excited to talk to you after this show.
So I started cleaning the bathroom. Every Thursday was my day, and I just took it on. And all that pain and all that frustration went away, right? I don't know if the guy ever got around to cleaning bathrooms in his life, but I didn't freaking care anymore because I want to be free. Ask yourself the question, are you waiting right now for someone to change? For someone to do something differently so you can be happy?
So much, yep.
Just, that's a very awkward position to put yourself in, and you have no control over other people. Marriage and all these things, you better work it out. You better work it out. But at the end of the day, you can control you, and that's about it. So,
yeah, I had a similar situation where I living communal living, and one person wasn't. I don't even remember what they weren't doing.
They didn't clean their dishes or something. Right?
Something, and then realizing I'm the one that desires. I really love waking up in the morning, and I talk to you about this all the time. Not having yesterday's junk start today's fresh day. So when I get up in the morning, I like to have all the dishes from the day before put away. That feels really good to me. It feels like a new day, a fresh day, not I gotta wake up and clean up yesterday's junk before I can even start. And this person would like cook late at night, and then I finally realized I'm the one that desires this morning experience. I'm the one. Obviously, she didn't. So if I'm the one that desires that, it's my desire, I can be the one that makes it happen. Now that can make, both of our stories can make it sound like a victim, if you told some people, but it really isn't. It's that we became the victor because no one else could control our emotions. And you know what else? Not living with her anymore.
Yes, you can change the outside. You can. We're not saying put up with a bunch of you-know-what. You can say, see you. You can unattract people. That is a thing, right? The whole law of attraction. You can unattract. All right.
Well, maybe they can live together.
We should put those two. It's been about 30 years, but I bet, who knows, maybe they got married. So, dear friends, this has been another episode of the Trust Sabrina Show, and we've been talking about the magic and the power within contrast.
And we need a screenshot.
Screenshot. Yay! Thanks for being here. Yes, it was a hilarious show. I saw you guys. I saw you cracking up in there. Good evening, Claire. Melissa, I'm glad that we were able to get you into a laughing state within minutes.
Look at the camera.
Oh, look at that tongue.
He lost his last tooth.
Hey, do this. Thank you. Vicky said we did great. It's an important message. This whole contrast thing's not going away. So the sooner you master it, the better.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, all the stuff going on in the world.
All the things and the beautiful reason for contrast. Remember the reason. It's your teacher. It's your friend. It's a guidance system. We need this. And all the other insights that came through tonight. Being able to take contrast as use it, pay it forward.
You being a good bathroom cleaner.
I know. Who would have thunk? You know me. I clean the kitchen every night. I'm pretty good. Come on, give me a kiss. Remember that guy that had an issue with us kissing? He said he didn't like us kissing. Yeah. We should make out right now. There was somebody years ago. They're not around anymore, but they didn't like when we kissed during our show.
Yeah, it was a public display of affection.
Yes, no more really public displays of it. Forget about it. All right. Much love, everyone. Till next week. Ciao, ciao.